Hello, this is Kim from the Community Education and Training Department at Mercer County Community College. You are about to listen to our podcast called Adult Learners Steps to Success. In our monthly podcast, we will be discussing topics such as interviewing tips, employer expectations, the job market, and much more. Our number one priority is to give our adult learners the education and the tools they need to succeed. Enjoy the show. Welcome, everybody, to today's podcast. This afternoon, we have with us David Hoftiezer. He is the owner of DPH Delivery. Welcome, Dave.
Thanks for having me.
I'm sure our students could benefit a lot from your vast knowledge and education. So why don't we start off first by you telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, I think I'm probably like many of your students. I didn't go back to school until I was in my 30s. So education for me was not something I did right out of high school. I was a blue-collar worker. I started out in the restaurant industry, and I was a production cook. I worked my way up through the ranks and became a restaurant manager for Red Lobster restaurants. Then I took that experience and I went to work for Wegmans Supermarkets as a grocery manager. Then I took that experience and went to work for Target stores as an executive for them, opening stores in Buffalo and then being transferred to New Jersey. I took that combined education and I applied for a job at Thomas Edison State University. I was lacking the degree at that point in time, and they had said, "Hey, we love you, but we'd like to see you finish your degree." So that was the impetus to get me back to school and finishing up my degree. I worked for them mostly as the director of admissions. I was with the university for 19 years. Then last year, 2019, the university, like many institutions, had seen an enrollment decline. So we went through many reorganizations. I eventually ended up losing my job, which was difficult, especially I was 54 at the time. And, I was in a position of having to either reinvent myself or find another job in higher education. So I took last year, because I finished up at the university in March 1st of last year, I took that opportunity to take some time and look at what I had wanted to do. I looked at many positions in higher ed, but again, due to COVID and enrollment decline, I couldn't find a position in education. So that provided an opportunity for me to step back and try to figure out what I was going to do.
A little soul searching.
Yeah, a lot of soul searching.
Yeah.
And I also took that time to reconnect with a lot of people I've known through the years in different industries and friends. And that's how I ended up where I'm at today. One of my old friends and colleagues, they were in a similar situation where they had lost their job due to COVID, and they were looking at opportunities in opening their own business. And they referred me to Amazon. And Amazon, as everyone knows, is a multi-billion-dollar company, and they deliver millions and millions of packages. And all of those service providers that deliver those packages are privately owned companies, which I didn't know that. Originally, when Amazon Prime came into play, they used UPS, DHL, FedEx, but because of the volume of deliveries, those companies could not keep up. So Amazon was forced to develop their own provider, shall we say, of delivery. So initially, 2 or 3 years ago, they did it internally. They decided that Amazon was going to open their own fleets, and they did it internally, hired their own people. And they did that probably for about a year and realized that the liability was extraordinary. So they decided to break that off and allow for individuals to apply to open their own business and then partner with Amazon. And the acronym for the listed company or a position that partners with Amazon, it's called a delivery service partner, so DSP. After doing some research on this, I also had at the time applied to open a Chick-fil-A franchise. So I was interviewing for the Chick-fil-A franchise as well as interviewing to open my own company and partner with Amazon. And I made it to the final stages with both. Amazon ended up coming in sooner. So I ended up deciding that I was going to open this service partner company. I named it DPH, which is my initials. Probably not too exciting, but I had many suggestions, and I just decided that I would go with the most simplistic one I could think of. So DPH Delivery launched in September of last year. So I'm coming on a year now. And the process of opening the company was very, very arduous, very difficult. I think when you envision opening your own company, you think of all of the positives. So, I'll set my own schedule, I make my own money, I hire my own people.
Sure.
Well, that's true. But with all of that, there is a lot of front work that needs to be done, so to speak, a lot of hours spent with hiring and setting up insurances and employee benefits. And it's a large task. And with Amazon, they want everything yesterday. yesterday. So we had 30 days to get the company stood up. It was not a lot of time. And that was everything to be from setting up medical benefits to workman's compensation, paid time off, the company that you use for payroll, general liability, cargo, leasing your vans.
Well, at that, Dave, let me interrupt you 1 second. At that point, too, you had to set up your department as well. I mean, you had to hire, put the proper people in place to get this rolling for you. I can't imagine doing that in 30 days.
Well, and also, let's not forget COVID.
Right.
With COVID, hiring was extraordinarily difficult. When I opened the company, they put me in a brand new distribution center in Swedesboro, New Jersey. Well, my company was one of 10 starting at the same exact time. So you had 10 companies in one distribution center, all fishing from the same pond as it relates to hiring staff. So you had to have 20 employees to open the company. I didn't have 20 employees until I had been open for 90 days.
Wow.
So in this particular company or this organization or this type of position, attrition is daily. It is probably the most difficult obstacle that I deal with on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis.
Did you ever in a million years think you would find yourself doing this kind of work?
No.
Okay.
I believe this was chosen for me. I had wanted to stay in higher education. I wanted to finish up my last 10 years and retire. After looking at positions in higher education, realizing with the current situation in the world, I wasn't going to be able to get into higher education. And this opportunity presenting itself, I felt it was the right time. I realized that there was a lot of liability and risk, but I also realized this was a good time in my life to do this because my children are grown. The risk reward is there, but the risk is less because my children are all launched. So it was the right time. I didn't envision myself doing something like this. I don't regret it, but I wouldn't use the word warn, but don't have preconceived notions of grandeur when you open your own business. It's a lot of stress and liability, and it'll keep you up at night. Now, there are many benefits to owning your own company, and no one will argue with that. However, there is a lot of stress and sleepless nights that come with owning your own business.
Thank you so much for sharing your background with us. I appreciate it. Let's talk for a minute now about DPH delivery and what type of job does your company offer?
Well, my company, as I told you, I had a very difficult hiring for quite some time. The positions I was hiring for initially were drivers. Our drivers have to have a clean driving record, and oftentimes individuals will confuse what a clean driving record is. A clean driving record is exactly that. If you had a speeding ticket, a lapsed registration, several seatbelt violations, I could go on for hours, that will fail you. So oftentimes folks that think they have a clean background as it relates to their driving records, they do not. So that's probably the biggest stumbling block. They also do a background criminal check as well as a drug test. So our individuals go through, our prospective team members go through a long, arduous process as well. And then we train them. Our drivers start at $17.50 an hour, which is close to about a $30,000 a year job. So with overtime and bonuses, they make well over $30,000. For someone in their 20s, that is a great job. And we have a lot of drivers who are in their 20s, and it seems to be a good match just because they're either just getting out of college and trying to figure out what they want to do, or they're going to college, and this is a good supplement of income. Then we also have, those are for cargo vans. So when your folks, whoever's listening to this podcast, I'm sure they're familiar with the blue cargo prime vans. They're at everybody's house every day. That is a standard cargo vehicle that our drivers drive. We also have UPS type trucks. They look like the brown UPS truck, except for they're in the Amazon colors, and those are step vans. Our drivers for those vans start out at $18.50 an hour. Then I also hire, typically internally, with those who've excelled and shown that they're dependable, to dispatch positions. I also have HR positions as well as operations manager position. Many of those positions are singular. The operations management position is a single position. The HR position is a single position. Dispatch, I have many of them, and drivers, I have many of them. So for the most part, it's driving positions and then a limited number of the others.
Okay, great. You talked about the clean driving record and the drug testing. What about education, high school diploma? Or would you hire somebody who's finishing up their degree, like showing proof that they are making the effort to get their high school diploma? Is that a consideration that you think some employers out there would make for somebody?
Well, I think education is very important. I don't require a college degree, but having a college degree, or at least working towards it, I think open a lot more doors. My positions are more blue collar, and there's a lot of autonomy with the position. You're out on the road, no one's micromanaging you. You have a set amount of deliveries and you have a set amount of time to complete them, but no one's standing over your shoulder. So there's the freedom of that, the autonomy of that, and individuals that excel in this position and enjoy this position are those that like that freedom. I do not require college education or that you're working towards a college education.
What about a high school diploma?
Again, you do not have to have a high school diploma.
Okay, that's important because I know so many students are working towards getting their high school diplomas, and it would be great if while they were in the process of doing that, they could find good employment. $17.50 an hour is good, these days. I think it's an excellent opportunity for people out there. What is the most important trait you look for in a candidate? Like, let's say HR did, some interviewing and now they pass the candidate over to you. Now it's up to you to, review with them and interview them. What is the most important trait you see in a potential candidate that would be working for your company?
I can tell you firsthand, first impression is everything. I don't care if you're applying for a driver's position or a management position. Your first impression is everything. So I even tell this to the folks that work for me that are looking for other positions: dress for success, present yourself, make eye contact, firm handshake, convey to that prospective employer that you're a competent person that's going to be dependable and trustworthy. Those are important to me. Look me in the eye, shake my hand, be dressed for success. We all have a life story, and everyone's life story is different, and there's no correct one. If you're sitting in front of me and you were interviewing for a position with my company, something got you to this point, I'm going to ask similar questions to what you're asking me today. Give me a little bit about your background. Why are you here today? And how do you believe this position is a good match for you? There's a lot of canned questions, and I try not to ask folks those, but a lot of people will. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Oh gosh, I hated that question when I interviewed.
They're just canned questions.
Yes.
I try to ask unique questions because I want to know a little bit about the person in front of me. I want to know about their personality. Positivity is huge. It takes one negative person to bring down an entire team. I'm all about positivity. If you are not happy in your job, find another job, but don't come to work and try to make everyone around you miserable. And that has been my motto. I've been a manager for 30 years, and that has been my motto since day one. When you come to work with a positive attitude, and your day will be a heck of a lot better. Because if you come in and everything around you is horrible, it's going to be a horrible day.
Oh, it's so contagious. Yeah. All it does, you could take down a whole department with one person. It's Absolutely. So contagious. I agree with you 100% on that with the positive attitude. How do you handle someone who is consistently late for their shift? They have every excuse in the world, and maybe some of those excuses are legitimate, but somebody who shows up at least 2 or 3 times a week, 10 minutes late, 15 minutes late, half hour late, how would you address somebody like that?
Well, I think anytime you're presenting opportunity for a team member to address an issue, you have to start with a positive and end with a positive. If someone attacks you, what's your initial response? Defense, right? So oftentimes when I had people with attendance issues over the years, I would come to them and I'd say, hey, listen, you're scheduled at 8:30 and I see that you've been coming in late quite often. Would it help you if we adjusted your start time? What if we have you start at 9 and work 9 to 5 instead of 8:30 to 4:30? Would that work for you? So you're empowering the team member. You're making them part of the decision. Now, if you adjust their time or if you have the ability to adjust their time and it continues to be an issue, then I would address it again. This time it would probably be a verbal and written. I would have the conversation and let them know I was going to document it. And if it continued, then we'd lead up to the point of termination. But oftentimes when you address these issues, attendance especially, and you offer to adjust for them, you'll get a positive response. You're not attacking them. A lot of people that run late, even in my organization, they have kids, they got to get them on the bus, daycare. Life happens. And you need to be cognizant of that. You need to be aware that people have lives and work with them. And I'll tell you what, when you invest in an employee, there is a monetary investment. There's also personal investment. So you've been trusted in this team member they're coming to work for you. And if you're flexible and able to meet them at their level and help them when needed, they're going to go to bat for you. They're going to do anything they can to see that you're successful. If you approach somebody negatively and you attack them, you're going to get that in response. They're going to badmouth you, they're going to badmouth the organization, and ultimately they're not going to end up working for you, but they might take somebody with them. So positive in, positive out, work, coach, work alongside, let them know that you're vested in them and know something about them. I make an effort to know something about every one of my team members. I'll either know their kids' names, birthdays coming up, their birthday, struggles, something that they're celebrating. Just be aware, invest time to know the people you work with, because that means a lot.
Oh, absolutely. When you pass somebody that you work with, maybe in upper management, and they say, "Hey, Kim, how was your trip?" Like, "Hey, how did it go?" Or what's, just take 20 seconds out of your time to take an interest in their lives and mean it. I think that goes a long way. I think that was an excellent point you just made, because you do work with people every single day and they have no clue if you are even married or have a child. And there's a certain level too of what you want to share, but I think that that definitely goes a long way. A great point that you made. Let's just wrap it up with one final thing. And this is a very general question, but I think a lot of employers can answer this differently. In your opinion, what do you consider good customer service? Now, I'm talking from your employees on how they treat the public. So what do you expect? What do you consider good customer service?
It's a great question. A great customer service often comes down to communication and positive communication. And you can think of this in many different contexts. Great customer service is internal as well as external. So the people that you work with are customers in a way, just as those that you serve. Great example of this, when I was working for the university, there's many different departments. We call them siloed, where people are different areas and you wouldn't see them every day. But you want to make sure you used a positive or had a positive impression with those different department heads, because there will be a time that you need to call upon them. So that is internal and external. So the people you work with, I go out of my way at the distribution center to ensure I know everybody's name, have positive interaction with them. They're customers. I'm working for Amazon as a subcontractor. I want them to speak of me highly and my organization highly and of my people highly.
Absolutely.
Customer service comes down to attitude, the way you present yourself. Our drivers always smile, deliver the package, and I listen to them because they're out on the road and I'm talking to them at different times, and I'll hear them say, "Hey, have a great day." Those small things. And then what happens with that, I'll just give you a quick example. Last week, one of my drivers, the person's dog had gotten loose, and the driver stopped the delivery and got the dog and carried it to the house. The customer then called Amazon and gave him a wonderful review and said how wonderful he was. Now, that's not something he had to do. It was just something he did. Going above and beyond goes a long ways. What is that? They say if you have one bad experience, 10 people talk about it. But if you have one positive experience, so there's a lot to be said. Customer service goes far beyond timeliness. It goes into sincerity and how you present yourself and a warm interaction. Now, not everybody's receiving of all of that, but it will have a better chance of leaving a long-lasting positive impression instead of a negative impression.
That's great advice for our students and whoever's listening. Dave, I think we're going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule to be with me this afternoon to talk about employee expectations, good customer service, a little bit about your company as well. We greatly appreciate it. I thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
It was my pleasure. My pleasure. I'm glad I could share some of my background with your folks.
Please join Mercer County Community College in recognizing International Literacy Day, September 8th, and National Adult Education and Family Literacy Week, September 19th to the 25th. AEFL Week and International Literacy Day help bring our attention to the nearly 800 million adults worldwide who cannot read, write, or perform simple math calculations. This is a time when individuals, organizations, and countries throughout the world renew their efforts to promote literacy and demonstrate their commitment to providing education for all. Thank you.